to surprise, to some certain level of surprise in the final. We're not having Magnus Carlsen and we're not having as well Wesley So. In the final is Jan Nepomniachtchi, who managed to beat in a very dramatic match yesterday Magnus Carlsen, and we have Anish Giri, who quite convincingly showed that he is currently in an amazing shape, and he won his match against Wesley So. So the final already is in 40 seconds. We have 40 seconds to begin, and well, it's going to be very exciting. For the first time, we have Anish Giri in the final for the first time as well. Jan Nepomniachtchi in the finals. Both of them are participating already next month, in approximately less than 30 days from now, in the candidates in Yekaterinburg, where they will be fighting for the place, only the first place. And of course, it is a match against Magnus Carlsen in November in Dubai. So let's see. I think it is quite a principal match between both of them, because they will face each other in a classical game in less than 30 days from now. So both of them want to do well. It is very prestigious to win such an event, so they will give absolutely the best, their best. Even though the tournament is very exhausted, because just think about, they had 15 games on qualification, then they have won already 2 matches, so unbelievable amount of games been played, over 30 games, and still they have now 8 games to go. So today it's gonna be very exciting, and of course tomorrow's a big final, because today is just the first day of the final. We're going to see 4 games, and tomorrow is the second half of it. We have Anish Giri with e4 as usual, and Nepomniachtchi is going for e6. Nepomniachtchi as well plays the Naiditsch, so he can play as well d6. We have e6 this time, and c3 by Anish Giri, so he is not going for the main lines of Carlsen with d4. He rather thinks c3 is the right choice. So we have this d5, queen d5, d4, knight f6, knight a3, knight c6. Of course, it is still all theory. Bishop e3. Now Nepomniachtchi thinking a little bit what he should do next. We have a couple of choices for black. There is, of course, c take d4, one of the main lines. Let's see what is Jan choosing to play next against Anish Giri, and we know that Anish Giri is so well prepared. His preparation is one of the top of the world, and it comes not from nothing. The guy is a hard worker, he is fully dedicated to his chess career, and I think we have to respect it very much. It is so difficult to be that consistent, to work, to get better. Even in case you show some success, you need to continue working, and this is what Anish Giri is showing. So Anish Giri with cd, knight b5, so we have the main line. In case I am not wrong, we have the move queen d7 as the main for black, but I might be wrong. But I think queen d7 is the line, or queen d8, but I think queen to d7 is the main move, because of course the knight wants to get now to c7. We have queen d8 played by Nepomniachtchi. But I am not 100% sure queen d7 or queen d8 actually. Let us also take a short glimpse at Magnus Carlsen, Wesley So. So the both guys, they've been favorites before the beginning of the tournament, and almost we saw another final between Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen. They've been both of them already twice faced each other in the finals, and both times Wesley So managed to defeat Magnus Carlsen. It is spectacular to win twice against Magnus in the final. Almost a result which can be compared to something unreal, because Magnus is not losing that often. He is very competitive, so you can beat him once, but to beat him twice, this is something very special. So Wesley So lost yesterday to Anish Giri, and basically Anish played so well. Wesley So had not that many chances in the match, and Magnus Carlsen, he had an unreal, spectacular match against Jan Nepomniachtchi first. Jan Nepomniachtchi been the favorite, then he lost a couple of games in a row, and we saw the blitz match between these two great players. Magnus Carlsen with a draw in the first game, and in the second game Magnus been doing much better, but finally lost the game with a white color. So we have Nepomniachtchi in the finals, Magnus playing against Wesley. So this time for the third place. Still, it is very principled match, and I guess both of these players are highly motivated. Not so much because of the money, not so much because of the place, but it is a match which is just personal. Magnus will never want somebody beat him 3 times in a row. In case you can beat Magnus for 3 times, I think then we can compare it a little bit to what Nakamura had against Magnus Carlsen. Nakamura been suffering for some moment so badly against Magnus. He been losing all his games in classical chess against Magnus, and it was not normal. Hikaru is a great player. There been no reason to lose this kind of amount of games, but sometimes you're suffering psychologically. You are having trouble to play against some particular opponent, and for Hikaru it clearly been Magnus. And I think in case Magnus is going to lose today against Wesley, so it would be sort of some guy who just beats you all the time, and Magnus, he does not like this kind of things. So in case we check now what been happening in the opening, Magnus comes with 4 dice. So Wesley is choosing the line with knight f3, so Russian, and Magnus is not going for the main lines of the Russian. He plays knight c3, knight c6, so we're back into 4 knights opening, and Magnus choosing the move a4. Of course, it is a ridiculous reply. I mean, a4, you can't take serious a move a4. Van Forest played a couple of games on a4, and I think I played once against Van Forest, the brother of Van Forest. Still, he is a very strong player, Lucas, and he has, I think, approximately 2-6 already. So the little brother is even getting close to the older one. But Jordan managed to win Vaikanze, so Jordan is now over 2,700, still doing better. But all in all, a very strong chess family. So a4 move, I don't know why people are playing the move a4. To me, it looks a bit strange, and the idea of a4 is very, very uncertain. So I'm not a big fan of the move a4. For example, some guys are playing here a3. A3 is making more sense, because in case of a3 at the move d5, you want to answer with the move bishop b5. So at least it makes a bit of sense. But to play a4, wow, it's like super strange. When I've been facing it myself with black, I thought, what is this? What is the move a4? Why somebody should play a4? It is just making no sense. What is the idea of playing a4? But anyhow, Magnus is trying it. I think he doesn't take it too seriously, the fight for the 3rd place, even though I believe he would like very much to win against Wesley. This is the way it is. So we have the move a4, and after a4, Wesley is coming with bishop b4. Very normal, bishop d3, d6. So we have this setup, and I think I played the same way with black, in case I'm not mistaken already. It is some time ago. Bishop c5, c3, and a5 against the move b4. So very normal, very, very solid. Bishop c2 with the idea of playing d4. Now black takes on d5. Knight g5 played by Magnus Carlsen. h6, d4. Bishop to b6. He is not taking instantly on d4, which I believe would be an option as well. But bishop b6 is normal. We can still take on d4 in case we need to. Knight h7 by Magnus Carlsen. Wow. Rook e8, knight to f6. It seems to be some crazy theoretical line, but out of nowhere. And Wesley still with 15 minutes on the clock. So Magnus with 12 minutes and 30, but we can be 100% sure that this position been well analyzed by both of these players, which is of course a little bit strange because it is a complete sideline. And Magnus playing knight h7, knight f6 that fast, so it is very obvious that Magnus is still in his lines. In case we take objectively some sort of look from above at this position, the idea of white, we want to take on h6. This is obvious. We want to bring the rook over e1 to e3, g3, just to get the king on g8 in trouble. We have the bishop on c2, which is very nice. And for black, well, we have to find a defense maybe somewhere with the king. But to escape some instantly, it is almost impossible. Maybe something like f5, so we cover the bishop on c2, then we go with knight g6. But there might be something like queen h6, knight to g6, and now we have this very unpleasant reply of bishop g5, bishop getting to f6, and we have this mate on g7. So black needs to be careful. Wesley So needs absolutely to be careful, and I think it also depends a lot if Wesley knows this position or he's playing by himself, because he played very fast, almost instant, all the moves before Magnus went with queen to h5 before the current position, and now Wesley starts to think. So I believe Magnus is for sure in his lines, and Wesley, I'm not 100% sure. Very difficult to tell if Wesley So actually knows this position or he's just playing by himself. So maybe we're going to see a move knight takes d5 with the idea of playing e4 next, maybe f5. I think the next move of Wesley So will decide a lot how the game is going to continue. And of course it is very, very important if Wesley So still knows this sort of sideline, which is hard to predict. And for Magnus it would be amazing to catch Wesley So in such a sideline. But Magnus knows what he is doing, so well, we can expect everything from this game. It might be a complete bluff by Magnus Carlsen, maybe black is just winning, having a clear piece up, or maybe it is just a great piece sacrifice by Magnus and he might start the match with a great victory. We are going to see it during the next couple of moves, because the next couple of moves will decide, I believe, a lot about the outcome of the game. Let's see. Let us go back to the final match between Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi. As we can see, a lot of moves been done so far. So we have this knight s3, this is what we saw, knight b5, queen d8, knight takes d4, it is all still theory, and we have queen c2 by Giri. This is sort of, something new, let's say like that, because usually in case of, we usually just castle short side, and Giri is trying something new with queen to c2, h6 played by Nepomniachtchi, quite normal, because bishop take f6, and bishop takes h7 is the threat. So we have h6, and long castle. Giri is preparing this monster attack by g4, g5, rook g1 at the black king of Jan Nepomniachtchi. We have queen a5, trying to grab the pawn on a2, of course, king b1, king goes into safety, protecting the pawn on a2, b5, and bishop e4 by Anish Giri. What a move, bishop e4. So strange, yeah, I mean, to play bishop e4, so you want your bishop to get exchanged, and I believe maybe it is a very strong move, bishop e4, because the rook from b8 doesn't really have many good squares. On the other hand, in case you play bishop e4, you must be sure that bishop e4 is actually working. Otherwise, it is just a huge mistake to change a bishop versus a knight on f6. So we have rook b8 played by Jan Nepomniachtchi and knight e5 by Giri, so the knight is getting to c6. As well, quite similar situation like in the game between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So. So the next moves are going to decide a lot about the outcome of these games. And once again, good evening to everyone, and welcome to the finals of Magnus Carlsen Invitational. We have Anish Giri against Jan Nepomniachtchi in the finals, and we have a big fight for the third place between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So. So we can be sure that the games are going to be of very high quality, and I believe quite exciting, because we have just fighting players. Yeah, there are no players who wants to make short draws any longer. Magnus fights almost in every game. Jan Nepomniachtchi is a guy who just is so unpredictable. You never know what is going to happen next when you are playing Jan Nepomniachtchi. Anish Giri, Jan Nepomniachtchi, we have the bishops been changed. Now Anish is thinking to get his knight to c6 or not, and I believe he might think of the move g4, h4, g5, because actually it has been his initial idea. So why not to try to execute it, or maybe it is just too late. So Anish is going for knight c6, queen on a5 and is under attack, and you might take the bishop next. So let's say queen goes somewhere, c7 maybe, knight take e7, queen takes e7, queen is protecting the knight on f6, so white is not able to take on f6. And how to judge such a position? So some people, I believe they might say maybe white is doing a little bit better, we have the nice bishop on d4. On the other hand, the knight from f6 is going to take this great position on d5. Yeah, so let's say in case white wants to double on the d file or something similar, there's knight d5 coming, so we have this very, very nice knight on d5. In my opinion, the position is in the area of being approximately equal. Maybe white is doing very, very little better, maybe not. So we are in sort of a balance. And the game, of course, will proceed, and we never know if the game will end in a draw, or maybe white wins, maybe black wins. But from the objective point of view, we are speaking of more or less an equal position. And yes, thank you very much to Ento. Thank you that you like my comments. Appreciate it. Okay, let's go back to the Magnus Carlsen Wesley. So we have the e4 move played by Wesley. Magnus rook to e1. So a move as rook e1 you're only playing in case you really know what you're doing. So it is obvious now to 100% that Magnus, he knows this line. So we have rook e1, f5. Wesley so blocks the bishop on c2. We have bishop takes h6, so rook e3, rook g3 is coming. We have a very interesting position, very difficult for evaluation. There is still no knight g6, at least I believe so. Knight g6, bishop g5 is looking very dangerous for the black king on g8. Queen has to move somewhere, d7, there is nothing better. Now white might play rook e3, rook to h3. There might be bishop to f6, followed by queen h6 and the mate on g7. It looks very dangerous, very, very dangerous for black. We have this bishop on b6, which is an extra bishop, but the bishop from b6 is doing nothing. Yeah, he's just looking into the pawn on d4. So objectively speaking, I believe white should have quite some decent compensation for the piece down, but of course you never know. You just never know in such positions, and maybe Wesley So can find a great defense and it might be just over for white. Maybe if there is no defense and Magnus Carlsen is going to win the game. We saw previously how well Wesley So is actually defending. Wesley So is a great in defense. He finds all the best moves. He's able to find many only moves in a row, so he might play like 4, 5, 10 only moves in a row to defend his position even in rapid chess. Yeah, we are going to see. We're going to see what is going to happen next. For me, it is very difficult to predict the next moves of black, because you must calculate such positions. To play it without a calculation is impossible. It is a very concrete position. So or there is a defense or there is no defense. This is why I am not even trying to guess what is going to happen next. It is just too hard. It is almost impossible as a commentator to make a certificated guess here. You just don't know. It is so complex. Maybe something like knight d5 is possible. Maybe there is something better. Maybe, I have no idea, queen d7, or you just cannot guess it right. Yeah, it looks very dangerous for black, of course. King to h7. Wow, why to play king h7? Dumb gent. King h7 just to put your king in front of the white queen. This is crazy. Why to play king to h7? It looks too dangerous, man. I think no human being would ever play king to h7. So no. And a little bit sorry, I'm still having this little cold, so You might hear me talking through my nose, so still a little bit ill. Sorry for that, but I hope during the next couple of days it will get better. Okay, so this is the game between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley. So very exciting game. Let's see what is happening next. And Anish Giri, back to Anish Giri. Anish is getting his rook to g3. This looks very strange to me. This I do not like so much, because I think to play rook to d3, rook to g3, it's so strange. I mean, the rook does not really belong to g3, because yes, you are making some pressure on the g7 pawn, but I think it is the wrong way. You will be never able to mate Jan Nepomniachtchi here, so I am not 100% sure in the moves of Anish Giri. Maybe, of course, he has some unbelievable plan which I'm missing, but in general cases, to get the rook to g3, it's not the best idea. We have b4, Nepomniachtchi b4, very aggressive as usual. Nepomniachtchi, this is the way he plays chess. Nepomniachtchi is very aggressive, and also he's playing quite fast. So we have b4, Giri is thinking to play c4, not to play c4, or maybe he's having something on the king side, but once again, this is something that I'm just not able to see, because I think white's attack on the king side, it goes into nowhere. We might try something with knight g4, but it is not really dangerous. You cannot call it dangerous. Maybe there is something with c take b4, but as well, it looks strange to take on b4. I think maybe queen d8 is actually the best. Not 100% sure, but I think queen b8. So queen on c2 is under attack. Then is something like knight d5 coming. I think it should be quite a decent play for black. Very, very active on the queen side. Yeah, North is down. Nice to see you. North is down as usual with us. Let's hope we have exciting games indeed. Yeah. 1-0 suggestion by Bezo Weep or Bezo Web. I never know how to read your nick. In Magnus game 1-0. Okay, we are going to see that. Constantino07, good evening to you as well. Let's see. Magnus game. We have knight takes d5 played by Wesley, so we have bishop g5 by Magnus, so he's provoking the move f6 to get his queen to g6. Wesley saw with the move f6, so he thought probably that queen d7 is just losing, and he's actually losing queen d7. There might be something like bishop b3 or rook e3 instantly. Rook e3 is looking as well quite nice. In case black takes, we have this bishop f6 and queen h8 with a mate, so very beautiful mate. Wesley so decided to get f6, so now we have queen g6 check, but before that Magnus is going for the move bishop b3, very beautiful pin. Wesley saw the move c6, but it looks so dangerous for Wesley. So is he really capable of defending such a position? So we have this check on g6. For example, we're taking on d5, we are able to take on f6. The queen is under attack, so queen to d7, it looks like just a mate, yeah. But you never know, I have to repeat it once again. Wesley So is a great defender. He is very good in defending positions. It looks to be lost, I have to admit. It just looks too dangerous. Maybe rook e3, rook h3. From the feeling, yes, white is having an overwhelming attack, but you never know. There might be some tricks, there might be some defense in such positions. Maybe some of you do remember the game of Wesley So against Firuza, where Firuza just had an unbelievably dangerous attack, and Wesley So managed to come dry out of all these wet waters and won easily the match. So yeah, this is something that might happen as well today. For the moment, of course, from my personal feeling, Magnus is doing very well. I think he has a very dangerous attack, but you never know. You just never know. And Anish Giri against Jan Nepomniachtchi. Wow, we are having knight takes f7. Wow, Anish Giri is going for it. Knight takes f7, of course, in case black takes on f7, we have this queen g6 check. This is obvious. And Nepomniachtchi with b takes c3. Now there is rook takes b7. Crazy action at the board. Giri is thinking he's under 5 minutes. It is very important what is Giri planning to do now. And please, once again, I want to tell it to the new guys in the chat, no computer evaluations. We are not checking position with the computers. In case somebody wants it, yes, of course, he's free to do so, but please, no comments. I'm commenting myself without a computer, so don't take the joy of chess from the others. No computers, please. We have knight takes h6, king f8, rook takes c3 by Giri. Okay, let's see. So the knight is hanging on h6, there is a rook hanging on c8. There might be something like rook to b8 with even more pressure on the b pawn. As well, the knight on h6 basically has no squares to go. We have maybe rook takes c3, bishop takes c3, now somewhere with a queen. I am not sure where, maybe even d5, maybe g5. g5, is it possible? I think so, yeah. Queen g5, so we want to take the knight on h6. On the other hand, we must be careful with queen c8 somewhere, so Anish is maybe capable of taking on f6, for example. Now we have this check next on c8 and queen take b7. So difficult to say if the position is good for white or maybe black is just doing better. Very tough to estimate. I think in case black is having nothing now and black is taking on c3. From the feeling, Anish Giri is doing better. I don't see a way for Jan Nepomniachtchi to win the knight on h6, or maybe there is a way to win the knight on h6. I'm really not sure. Maybe something like rook c3, for example, bishop c3, now queen to c5. Hard to say where to put the queen. Difficult to find a good square for the queen, maybe c5, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. Queen c5 might be an option, so Giri might try something with queen to g6. There is a mate on f7, or maybe just to take on f6, but I think this should be a draw because we are taking with a bishop on f6 and we have this rook b2. Knight is getting out, but we have rook takes b2, so I believe it is a draw. On the other hand, queen to g6 might be possible. We want to mate on f7. There is g take h6. Now we have bishop take f6. You see, guys, how complex it is, yeah? Very complex position. Very difficult to say on a short note if actually Jan Nepomniachtchi is having a great position because he's going to win the knight on h6, or maybe Anish Giri is just having a winning position. Everything is possible. I don't know. Jan Nepomniachtchi is having a lot of time, so he might find the best solution for black. We are going to see it. I think the game is very exciting. Back to Magnus Carlsen, and Magnus Carlsen is thinking we have queen g6. Basically, he played first rook to e3, so Magnus is not taking on d5, and actually no idea why. I believe bishop take d5 deserved attention, but of course Magnus, he is very strong and usually he's choosing the best lines. So rook e3, he's bringing the rook into the mating attack, and we have queen g6 played now. So he wants to get his rook to h3 and mate the king of Wesley. So still, it is a bit strange to me that he did not take on d5, because I think to have bishop d5 cd, why not, yeah? I don't think Magnus can do something better with a bishop on b3 than taking the knight on d5. And who knows, this knight on d5 might be useful at some point. Let's see how the game will proceed. Wesley so very short on time, just 2 minutes. 2 minutes is so little in a very complex position, and Magnus still with 7 minutes on the clock, so big advantage, big time advantage. I think the chances of Magnus are better to win this game currently. Still, it stays very sharp. And Anish Giri, back to Anish Giri. So we have queen d5 played by Jan Nepomniachtchi. This is what I've been talking about. For me, it was so hard to find the best place for the queen. I've been a little bit worried playing queen d5 personally because of rook to d1. Rook d1 might be very unpleasant because black needs to take on g2, but after taking on g2 I have this king on a fade, completely unprotected. There is bishop take f6 next. Afterwards, I think the position of white should be better. Actually, I'm not sure what Jan Nepomniachtchi is planning after rook d1, because in case of queen g2 we're taking on f6. Bishop takes f6. Now we have this check on c8. King e7 is a must, and we're mating the black king with queen d8 mate. And of course the rook is not hanging because we have the queen on g2. So rook d1, I think rook d1 is very tempting, just to bring an extra piece inside the game, and Anish might win the first game against Jan Nepomniachtchi, at least from the feeling now. I believe white is doing better, but once again, it is just a feeling. I cannot be sure in that, guys. It is impossible to say to a high degree who is actually winning here. From the feeling, it is white, but it is just a feeling. This is just a feeling. I might be wrong. And we're going to see in a couple of moves what is going to happen next. Magnus against Wesley So. Wesley So resigns already, so he finds no defense. We have this queen g6 move, f4 played by Wesley So. Bishop h6 check, queen h7 check. Of course, it's just a mate because king e6, rook takes e4 is mate on the board. So an amazing win by Magnus Carlsen, but I'm not 100% sure that the position of Wesley is objectively completely lost. There might be some defense, but of course a brutal, yeah, I agree to you, Dom Gent. It is a brutal crush by Magnus Carlsen. And in case we're just back a little bit with a4, I mean, to crush your guy playing 4 knights with a4. a4 is not a serious opening choice. It is just a random move. I mean, it can be a4, it can be a3, it can be h4. So it is not sort of a novelty. a4 never played before, and this is going to change the evaluation of 4 knights. No, definitely not. It is one game line. I don't think Magnus Carlsen is going to repeat the move a4 in his future games. He just prepared something, and his preparation went perfect because I have no idea how he estimated that Wesley So might go exactly for this position, and Magnus knew it. Magnus knew it exactly, so he plays this knight to g5 first, yeah, to provoke the move h6. Then he plays d4. Very strange move order, because of course you try first to play d4 before knight g5, but he starts with knight g5. I have no idea why is it better to start with knight g5 and not with d4. Maybe he's avoiding something a little bit hard to understand what actually he's avoiding. So we have h6, d4 now, bishop b6 played by Wesley So. Now we have this amazing knight h7, rook e8 and knight f6 check. I mean, what a preparation, because Magnus is obviously still in his preparation. The 3 minutes that he has spent, this is just a show. This is not real. He knew exactly what he's doing. So we have queen h5. Magnus is just playing for the attack, and Wesley, he finds no way of defending against this brutal attack. Magnus is bringing his rook into the game. Wesley So tries to defend with f4 and is immediately getting mated. Yeah, very tough, very hard play by the world champion. Very beautiful miniature. Well, yeah, what we can say, a beautiful game. Very beautiful game by Magnus. He is crushing Wesley So in the first game of the day number 1, because we're gonna have the rematch tomorrow. Today 4 games, tomorrow 4 games. Magnus Carlsen is leading with 1-0, and yeah, in a complete demolition. Magnus Carlsen plays today Demolition Man, sacrificing a piece and giving a mate to the black king. Anish Giri. Let us check the game of Anish Giri. The Anish Giri game is, well, some changes. So Anish Giri with 2 pawns up, yeah. Looks nice for Anish Giri. We saw this beautiful tactical idea of knight takes f7, b takes c3, knight h6, rook takes c3. and bishop takes f6. I'm quite curious, why not to play rook to d1 first? Very strange, very strange. Why not rook d1? No idea, guys. I would have played rook d1. I think so. Why not to bring an extra piece before you're taking on f6? Maybe there is a reason, but I don't see it. So we have queen c8 right now. Okay. Bishop d8, knight to g4. It seems to be, yeah, 2 pawns up position for white. There is no mating attack, not yet. Probably there is no perpetual check. Rook takes b2 is not enough to give perpetual because the bishop is pinned with the queen on c8. And we have rook c7 played by Jan Nepomniachtchi, queen b8 by Giri, king f7, knight to e3, queen d3, queen d6. Rook to c1 is the next move of Jan Nepomniachtchi, the threat, and he might be able to take h2 or something. I have no idea why queen d6, maybe bishop to f6 with a pressure on b2 pawn. I think, guys, the game is far from over. I think I'm sure that white is better. In case we speak objectively, white must be better, but in a practical game, I'm not 100% convinced, because Giri now with just 30 seconds, very little time on the clock of Anish Giri, there is bishop f6 coming, and in case the bishop is going to be on f6, we have this huge pressure on the b2 pawn. In case the black rook will get somewhere to the b file, it is getting so unclear. So we have queen b3, bishop f6 as expected. The knight on e3 is very badly placed. Giri needs to get his knight to g4, but then the bishop is getting to d4, so it's very difficult to get rid of the bishop on this long diagonal. And yeah, till the bishop is alive, black is always in the game. It is far from over. In a classical game, yes, white maybe will win this position, but in a rapid game and Giri has just 20 seconds, there is an a pawn coming. Nepomniachtchi wants to get his pawn a4, a3. Very practical play by Jan Nepomniachtchi. And Giri with a4. Wow, very dangerous now. In case Nepomniachtchi gets somehow his rook to the b file, the rook will get to b4. Very dangerous. The white king might get just mated. And yeah, how to bring the rook to the b file? Maybe there is something like queen d7, just rook to b7 next. Maybe there is rook c6 with the idea of playing rook b6 next. We must be careful as well with knight c4 move. So let's see what is Jan Nepomniachtchi is going to play next. Objectively, I believe Giri is better, but for a practical game, I am not sure. The fight has just begun. Let's see, rook b7, yeah, beautiful idea. Bezoweb, beautiful idea, rook b7, but it does not work. Queen b7 check for the moment, so queen a3 mate, yeah, very beautiful idea, but it is not working. Not working yet, might be working later. True. Let's see what happens next. And Jan Nepomniachtchi is playing the move. What did he play? Let me update the website for a second. Yeah, he's playing the move queen d7. Okay, we've been expecting it a little bit. King to a2, rook to b7, queen to c2. So Giri tries to keep the things as coordinated as he can. As well, Giri managed to play quite quick the last move, so he gained a little bit of time on his clock, which is very important for Anish Giri. He has now 30 seconds, which is already better than having this 10-15 seconds from before. Jan Nepomniachtchi still tries to get to the a4 pawn. Not easy, not easy. There is rook b4, but then we have the move b3. Let's see what happens next. Position is still dynamic. Objectively, I believe white is better. Practically, I am not sure anything can happen. We have this very strong bishop on f6. Till the bishop is alive, nothing is sure in the game between Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi. Jan Nepomniachtchi with 3 minutes on the clock. The time is getting short as well for Jan Nepomniachtchi. So very exciting. Very, very exciting game. Let's wait for the next move of Jan Nepomniachtchi. King g8. He just brings his king to a more safer position on g8. Let's see if Giri is going to counter with a move b3. I guess then rook c7 is going to come, and Jan Nepomniachtchi will want to get his rook somehow to the second row. Yeah, b3 played by Giri. He found nothing better. Let's see if we get rook c7. I believe rook c7 should be played. It is looking very logical as well. Maybe rook b4, rook d4 might be some idea. Not sure what is the next move of Jan. I think rook c7. Rook c7 is something nice, looking very nice. Rook c7. Queen to d1 probably will be played by Anish, and maybe then something like queen c6. Of course, black should try to avoid... Yeah, rook c7. We have rook c7, knight c4 by Anish Giri. This is a little bit unexpected, at least to me, because knight on c4, yes, it is standing nice, but maybe also it is not standing great. The bishop on f6 is still alive, and the bishop is going to be alive for a very long time. Let's see how the game will end. It seems like at least the Giri managed to bring his rook back into the game, which is nice, and he might try to do something against the king on g8. Not easy. Of course, the square on d8 is protected by the bishop on f6, so it's difficult to get to the black king. On the other hand, what should Jan Nepomniachtchi try next? The knight is sort of holding the things together, and not easy to try something. So let's see. Yeah, maybe black can try to get his queen to b4, but still, even with the queen on b4, there are no major threats, and of course the pawns of white will start to roll slowly but surely, and it's going to be not easy for black as well. The king on g8 might get in trouble at some moment, and then the game will be, of course, just over. So Nepomniachtchi needs to be careful not to change his queens, needs to be careful with his king on g8. I believe that Giri slowly, step by step, is improving his chances of winning the game number 1 with the white pieces. A very tough game, very interesting game, a lot of complications. Of course, it would be a great win by Anish. Yeah, Bezaweb, you are perfectly referring to all the details of the game. Yeah, Giri is indeed weathering the storm step by step. We have king h8, h3 played by Giri as expected, h3 just to put the pawns even safer. And we have rook d5 played by Jan Nepomniachtchi to change the rooks. It's okay for black, but it is okay for white. So we can be sure that Giri is doing better. Giri is taking on d5. Okay, this is interesting. Why he took on d5? Now Jan Nepomniachtchi is having the strong pawn on the d file. I think to take on d5 been maybe a little bit premature by Giri, but of course hard to say. Still the position of white is looking better, but right now the d pawn might get very strong, so I'm not 100% convinced that the move rook takes d5. I think Giri could have done something else. Now the d pawn, of course, is very strong, so knight g4. Giri is trying to get the bishop, but the game is far from over. Even the queen endgame. Of course, white is having huge advantage in the queen endgame, but it is not over. Jan Nepomniachtchi is keeping his bishop alive, which is normal. The knight on g4 is sort of cut by the bishop on d4. Queen d3, bishop to c5. Queen will get to e1, maybe c1, a3. Still the game is far from over. f4. Giri tries to get his knight on e5. Very nice idea. In case the knight gets to e5, then of course black is already in huge trouble. So Jan Nepomniachtchi should try something like queen to e1. I think it's his best chance to play for perpetual check. In case there will be no perpetual checks, these are bad news. Yes, he's going for queen e1. It's just the best. It's just the best Jan Nepomniachtchi can do. Giri's already with a minute on his clock. Giri played very fast and quite strong. Queen takes d5. No queen e2 check. So both of the players, they've been sure it is not a perpetual check. So Jan Nepomniachtchi with queen c3. Now he wants to give perpetual with queen c2, and as well he wants to play bishop to d4. Wow, this is amazing. It might be just a draw now, because queen c2 is for sure a draw. In case of queen to d1, there is bishop d4, and black might be winning. So, how to make a draw actually for white? There is a check on a8, there is a check on e4 later, so I think, yes. So he's giving perpetual. He's giving perpetual, and Jan Nepomniachtchi escapes in this horrible position with a great idea of perpetual check. And this is what I've been talking about. Till the bishop is alive, till the bishop is on the board, the game is just not over. And as we can see now, I believe the game will end now in a draw, because yes, it is a perpetual check now. The threat is just to give perpetual check. The knight on g4 cannot help in time to the white king. Giri with 30 seconds on the clock, so he's trying to find a win, but I believe there is no win. Bishop d4 as well, very serious threat next. I think, yeah, it is just a draw. What an escape by Jan Nepomniachtchi in a very difficult position. Yes, it is a draw. It is a draw. Giri is giving check on a8. There is king h7, queen e4. Yeah, perpetual. This is just a perpetual check. What a fighting game. And as many fighting games actually as well. This one is ending in a draw. I never understood. It is a very funny thing about chess in general, that so many fighting games, these insane games, are ending in a draw. It is very strange, because usually in case you have the super sharp positions, yeah, some side might win. But a lot of these games are ending in a draw. This phenomena in chess is hard to explain. I never could explain it myself, and I know it from my own games, that indeed a lot of the super sharp positions somehow are ending in perpetual checks and some strange exchanges where in the end it is indeed just a draw. And we have the same once again between Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi. In case we shortly take a look at this last phase of the game, of course, white is doing much better, but we have this knight on g4, who is sort of a little bit out of the game. And we have f4 played by Anish Giri, very nice. He wants to get his knight on e5. Queen e1, great play by Jan Nepomniachtchi. The only chance to play for perpetual check. For the moment, there is no threat, but the queen wants to get to c1. Then it will become dangerous. Maybe it is still winning for white, I'm not sure. Maybe there is something like knight e5. And it might be winning. I'm not 100% sure, so I can't tell you. But I think maybe there is something for white. Giri took on d5. I believe Giri just been expecting check on e2, check on e1, king to c2, check on e2, and of course he wanted to bring back his queen to d2, which might give white, of course, winning chances. I believe, yeah, white should be winning. King to d1, and there are no checks left, just a check on b1, king to e2, and knight e3 next. So the chances of Giri would be excellent to win this position. And Jan Nepomniachtchi saw it, and he played this very cool queen c3 and played so fast also by Jan Nepomniachtchi, so very, very sharp-minded guy. I mean, he sees this kind of moves like queen c3 almost instantly, because, for example, in case I would be black, first I would calculate move queen e2, so at least I would spend some time on playing queen e2, but he plays at tempo queen c3, so Jan Nepomniachtchi very, very good in this tactical positions. So queen c3 was the idea of bishop d4 and queen to c2, sort of double threat. So we have a draw. We have a draw, very fighting draw between Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi in the game one. Still, I do not know exactly why Giri took on f6. So something very strange to me to take on f6 right away. As I proposed, I think rook d1 is looking pretty normal, and of course in case black is taking on g2, there is bishop take f6, so the check on c8 is getting deadly. Little bit strange. Little bit strange that Giri did not play the the move rook d1. Maybe, of course, there is something that I'm missing. It is very possible that there might be some solution for black. Why rook d1 should be a mistake, or... But at the current moment, I have no idea why not rook d1. I think it's looking nice to get the rook to d1. I think the purpose is quite simple. We want to get the rook on the d file. We want to take next bishop take f6. I have no idea why not rook to d1. I think the position of white is looking winning. I might be mistaken, but yeah. I think rook d1 would have made a full point for Anish, but he took on f6. He thought he's winning anyhow. And of course, objectively, white should be winning. On the other hand, yeah, till the bishop is alive, we have always practical chances for the black. And Nepomniachtchi is a very practical player. He has done absolutely the best he could out of this difficult position to keep the game ongoing. And we have this rook d5 move and rook takes d5. I don't like the move rook takes d5 because it gives some chances to black. Yeah, we have the strong d pawn, which might be always very dangerous. So rook takes d5. I don't know. I think personally I would not play rook takes d5. So we have a draw. I guess the next games are going to begin already very soon. We have Wesley So already running against Magnus Carlsen. So this is the game number 2. In the first game, Magnus completely destroyed Wesley So. A great attacking game by Magnus, and now we have Wesley So with the white color. And by the way, what do you think? You believe that Wesley So can be back into the match, or do you think that Magnus is going now just to overall Wesley? What is your opinion, and what is your opinion on the match? Giri and Nepomniachtchi. For me, I believe that Anish Giri is perfectly capable of winning the match. So my favorite is maybe Anish for the final, and of course I'm tipping on Magnus because I just cannot imagine Wesley So winning 3 times in a row against Magnus. This is something, yeah, it's like winning a lotto. But you guys, what do you think the results will be? Write it in the chat. It will be interesting to know your thoughts. Nepo wins. Let's see. Actually, Nepomniachtchi, he has a lot of fans, yeah, big fan base. This is true, but I think that Anish has even a bigger fan base. Anish is very active on the social media platforms, so he has so many followers everywhere. Yeah, Nepomniachtchi is in a great shape. Yeah, totally agree. I totally agree. Let's see. Let us take a look a little bit at the game of Wesley So against Magnus Carlsen. So we are in the round number 2, and we have Spanish with rook e1. So we have the main line of Spanish a4 anti-marshal. I'm not sure actually if Magnus would go for marshal, but in case of c3 we might see marshal with d5. This is why white is sometimes choosing to play a4. You call it anti-marshal, I think, the correct name, but I don't know all these names of openings. Actually, many times people are asking me, what do you think about this and this and this opening? And they call the openings with some names. I say, guys, I have no idea what this name is. Please tell me the moves and I will give you my opinion. So I don't know the exact name. We called it always anti-marshal when some guy played a4, but it might have as well a different name. Bishop b7, d3, and rook e8. So Magnus is not going for the move d5, which I think is the most critical one. Magnus is going for a long game with rook to e8, bishop to g5. Very interesting play by Wesley. So bishop to g5. There are many moves for white. There is knight c3, knight d2, and Wesley is going with bishop g5. I think quite a rare continuation, actually, bishop g5. We don't see bishop on g5 that often, because usually, yes, h6 is perfect, bishop h4, d6, and knight h5 is going to happen at some moment. Let's see, knight c3, knight a5, Magnus is going for the bishop, yeah, bishop a2, b4, very normal. Now bishop take f6 needs to happen in case of knight d5. We have this knight take d5, and bishop e7 is not possible any longer. Yeah, because the knight just takes back, and of course black is just a piece up. So bishop f6 and knight d5. I believe position is pretty equal. I don't think that Wesley So is having an opening advantage. Personally, I like such positions with black. I played a couple of games in such positions with a black color, and I think you are not facing real trouble. Magnus is taking on d5 with the idea of playing c6 next, I guess. And c6, bishop a2, and maybe rook b8, or even to sacrifice a pawn by playing b3. But b3 is something I'm not sure of. So I think maybe rook b8 first, or c6 first. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what should become first. I think rook b8, yeah, rook b8 as well, played by Magnus. Very nice move. There is this threat of playing b3 as well. Black might try to play d5 next. The bishop is nicely placed on f6 currently. Wesley saw with the idea of knight d2, first of all to prevent b3, secondary to get the knight on c4. But I think after knight c4 we just have a drawish position. Magnus is going to think, in case he wants to play d5, this looks a little risky. I think it is too early to put the pawn on d5, because white might be able to take and queen to f3. So we have this pressure on the d5 pawn. This is looking a bit too scary. But you might be able just to get bishop to g5, so we want to take the knight on d2. Maybe something like knight c4 is going to happen next, so we can just take on c4 and play a5. Very important to get the move a5 done. Without a5 there is a5 by white, and then we have this trouble with the pawn on a6. But in case black is getting a5, I believe the position is very close to be equal. The only idea of white is to get somewhere the f4 move, but it is almost impossible. So yeah, I believe we're very, very close to be to have an equal position. Okay. So this is the way it looks like currently in the game between Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen. Let's see if Anish Giri has begun his game. No, not yet. And yeah, good evening to everyone who just came to the channel. Today we are looking at the games from the final of Magnus Carlsen Invitational. And actually what I think about Magnus Carlsen Invitational, I think it's pity that they're not really giving chances to random people to get inside the tournament. It is a closed event. You are not able as a normal guy somehow to qualify for the event. I think it's a bit pity, because we're seeing all the time the same people and they have 16 places. So I believe they might have given even 2-3 places for some sort of qualification tournaments. I think it would be very exciting to see some other top players as well participating in the event. For example, we never saw Rapport playing. I think he is definitely one of the top young chess players currently, and we haven't seen so many top grandmasters, which I believe also deserves at least a chance to participate time to time or to qualify for it. So it is a closed event. It is purely to 100% invitational. I believe it is a little bit pity, but maybe it is better from the sponsor point of view, because you know exactly in advance who is participating. From the spectator view, I believe, yeah, it's quite boring to see all the time the same faces, yeah. All right, so what do we have in the position after, we saw the position after knight d2, yeah. So indeed, Magnus is choosing to play bishop to g5, so this is something that we've been expecting, knight b3 and a5, yeah, a5 is very important, but this we know already. So a5 played by Magnus, and we have this opposite color position. Yeah, it is a draw. It is just a draw. F4. I don't think Wesley is going to manage to get F4 at some point. Too difficult, too difficult. He might want to get D4 next and maybe try to be a bit better. But also, I think it's very difficult to be better with white. Little chances, very small chances are still there. Rook e8 played by Magnus. Of course, he just tries to be solid in case of d4. Maybe there is, for example, we're taking on d4, bishop f6. So the pawn on b2 might be hanging. There is no more e5, at least I think so. Or maybe there is e5. Maybe there is actually e5. Not sure, because there is no threat, yeah, in case of rook d6, queen take d6, and the rook is hanging on e1. So it needs to be calculated. Of course, it needs to be calculated. Hard to say. Maybe there is e5. Very tricky, but maybe d5 is possible to close the bishop. So the bishop is out of the game, completely out of the game. There is ef, rook e1. This is nice for black. Of course, there might be something like rook g4, but yeah, usually it is not working for white to try to give a mate with two pieces on the board. I don't think so. I don't think it is a great choice. Alright, so for the moment I think position is very close to be equal. In the game we see h4, bishop d8 played, so the bishop is getting to b6, and then it is Magnus who is going to for king h8 and f5. Of course the pressure on the f2 pawn is going to be there. But we have more or less the same case. It is just an equal position. The guys are playing 12 minutes for Wesley So and 11 minutes and 30 seconds for Magnus Carlsen. I believe we are going to see a relatively short draw. Yeah, Constantino, of course, I saw it. That they even had another closed qualification event. Grandelius, Pichot, Tari and Warmadam. I saw it, Constantino, but it's not a qualification event, because it's once again, yeah, as you are writing correctly, it is again a selection between players. It is not an open event, and we see Grandelius playing a lot of this Magnus Carlsen events, because, yeah, I guess he is pushing, of course, the Scandinavian players. We have Tari, of course, but there are so many players in the world, let's say, of a strength of Tari. Tari is a 2600 player, so I think it is not very objective, yeah. It is not super objective. I believe to say an open event would be very exciting, yeah. There are so many good players, yeah, and I mean, in case we just take Russian players, so many young and strong boys, Indian boys, yeah, we never see Indian players, at least the young ones, yeah, like Pragnananda and all the guys, yeah, who are having 2-6 something and being 15 years old, so young and strong. So it feels a bit pity, I think, because I understand from 16 places you cannot give 8, but why not to give 2 or 3 places for a chance? I think, yeah, it would have been a possibility. Giri started to play, so let's see. Yes, we have Naiditsch. We have Naiditsch with f5, so very exciting game is expected. We have Naiditsch, Nepomniachtchi. He thought enough of jokes. Now it's time to be more serious. And we have f4, the most sharp line of Naiditsch, bishop g5 and f4. We saw a lot of games of Maxima Shilograf with a black color, who've been actually suffering currently in the Naiditsch. Maybe some of you If you have time, take a look at the game Caruana against Maxim Vachilagraf. What an unbelievable game of Fabiano Caruana from Vaikanze. Very beautiful play by Fabiano. And we have Queen D2, F5. This is the main line. And Giri is going with Bishop take E6. Very interesting, because Bishop take E6 is not the main. Usually we have Fe, but Giri with Bishop takes E6. Let's check. Why Bishop E6? So we have this Rook B7 option sometime. Is it good to take now instantly on B7? Probably not, because Giri is obviously in his preparation, and this is what we know about Giri. Giri is not joking in the openings. In case you're talking about opening, Giri is not a guy with who you want to joke there. He takes his preparation very seriously, and he knows what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing, and in his main openings. And of course, knight off is one of his main openings. So we have Bishop E6. Maybe with white you might want to take on E6 and get your bishop to C4. So it's nice to develop the pieces. Let's see. Let's see what happens next. What will be the move of Jan Nepomniachtchi? He is already thinking for a minute. Of course, a minute means nothing in such a complex, very complex position. So many different choices for white. In case Nepomniachtchi does not know the current move, Bishop take E6, I think he might be in quite some trouble, because it is difficult to just play this position. You have such a wide choice, and you're losing a lot of time by calculating, and the moves are far from obvious. So difficult to find the best. And Giri is choosing Bishop E6, so we can be sure the move Bishop E6 is not bad at all. Maybe it is not a move for a classical game, but it is a possibility to play in a rapid game. Jan Nepomniachtchi is still thinking knight take E6 or knight take C6. Let's see what Nepomniachtchi is going to take. Maybe B7 as well. Let's see what happens. North is down. Yeah, neither has a deep ocean. Indeed, yeah. I totally agree. I think the people are analyzing Naiditsch for maybe the last 80 years, and quite heavily. And still, Naiditsch is undiscovered, so sort of an endless opening. Like Spanish, similar to Spanish. Wesley saw against Magnus Carlsen. We saw the position after h4, d4. So finally Wesley saw decides it's time to get to d4. So time to get serious. Magnus takes and bishop b6. So Magnus is not going for bishop f6, e5, d5. Maybe now the pawn on h4 is standing nice in comparison to h2, because there is no bishop g5 at some point. So maybe rook g4 or something, maybe rook, I don't know where to put the rook, maybe just f4, but I think black should have some counterplay. On the other hand, there will be coming c3, bishop c2, and at some moments there might be dangerous attack on the black king. Hard to tell. I think not an easy position to get a clear estimation. On the other hand, Magnus just decided to get the bishop to b6, which is pretty logical, and queen a7 coming with a tempo. Okay, so maybe Wesley So should have played his rook to d2, queen to f3, and bishop c5, so very safe defending the pawn on d6. And I think Magnus wants at some moment to get king to h8 and proceed with the move f5. And of course f5 is something very dangerous in case black gets f5, gets to play f5. I think the things might turn very quickly, and Wesley So will need to be careful not to get in trouble. Objectively, I believe we're still in a position with equal chances. So king h8, I believe, to follow. Yeah, I think it is just a draw. Rook e8, we have this bishop c4 move just to defend the rook on e2, because d5 might be coming somewhere. I think it is a draw. I think it is just a draw. Back to Jan Nepomniachtchi against Anish Giri. So we have indeed rook takes b7 and Anish is taking on d4, continuing with bishop on e7. Very fast play by Anish Giri. And Nepomniachtchi already was just 11 minutes on the clock. For example, in a classical game, in such a complex position, it would be not unnatural to give a thought for 20-30 minutes because it is just so complex. In a rapid game, you must play fast, you must take your decisions based on your intuition. There is no time for this deep thinking, and Jan Nepomniachtchi just continues with bishop d3. Very logical move, of course. He wants to castle short side. On the other hand, it needs to be calculated. Bishop d3, maybe h6 is possible, so we have this queen c1 check somewhere. Maybe as well, Anish Giri might go somewhere with his knight. Okay, in this I'm not so convinced. Maybe rook c8 first. Let's see. Let's see what Anish is going to play next. I think he should be still in his theory, and maybe he does not remember the move bishop d3 because it is not the most critical choice, but on the other hand, I think he knows the major ideas. Yes, North is down. Black needs to prepare the castle. Absolutely. This is why maybe h6 or maybe rook c8. Let's check what Nepomniachtchi is going to do with his knight on c3. The knight has not so many nice squares. As well, somewhere queen c5 might be enough to hold two in equal position. So let's see what Anish is going to play next. Wesley So against Magnus Carlsen. So we have an endgame. Magnus is just going for the endgame. He just wants to make a draw. Magnus is not fighting this time for a win. It looks maybe a bit better for white, but in fact it is just a draw. Not much Wesley So is able to do in this sort of positions. I think Magnus will just keep on waiting. Let's just say king to f8. At some moment Magnus might even try to play d5 to get the rooks changed and to win this opposite color bishop endgame. I think the chances are pretty zero. So Magnus with bishop d4, rook to d1. I think bishop c5 back will be played now. Yeah, bishop c5 back by Magnus. The threat is to get d5 next. And yeah, d5, I don't think Wesley wants to allow Magnus to play d5, so maybe he just goes back on e1, and we're going to see a repetition of the moves. Magnus defended very easily against Wesley in the game 2, so first game been won by him. He should be pretty happy with the outcome of the first 2 games, 1.5 points. In case he wins the game number 3, then his job is done for today, and tomorrow he has 4 more games to go against Wesley. So yeah, looks good for Magnus. Wesley wants to continue playing by rook d2, so difficult to understand that Wesley So is really pushing for a win. I don't think he has any objective reasons to play here for a win with white. I think Magnus just might keep on waiting with king to f8. Not much is really happening. g5 is not dangerous. There is nothing else. At least I don't see anything else. King f8, yeah. Magnus just will keep on waiting with king g7, king f8. And in case he needs to, he will get the move d5. I believe it is a draw. So, Jan Nepomniachtchi against Anish Giri. Anish is still thinking after the move bishop d3. So quite a serious thought by Anish already, like 4 minutes. 4 minutes is a lot of time for a rapid game. Maybe he's trying to refute bishop d3 on the spot, but it's difficult to refute bishop d3 because the move is just so solid. So yeah, we're going to see very soon what Anish wanted with his opening idea of playing bishop take e6. My personal hit is rook c8. I believe rook c8 will be played next. It is just so logical to get the rook to c8. It feels good to get the rook to c8. Or maybe h6, but I think rook c8 first, and still h6 is a possibility even later on. So I believe rook c8, h6. Okay, I've been half wrong. Not completely wrong, but half wrong. So h6 played by Anish Giri. He's asking Jan Nepomniachtchi, where do you want to put your bishop, h4 or d2? I believe d2 or e3. e3 is strange, so I think bishop d2 probably will be played by Jan Nepomniachtchi to get the bishop on d2. Looks solid. We're defending the knight on c3. And the bishop is, yeah, well, d2 is not the perfect place, but it could be worse. Let's see if Jan Nepomniachtchi is playing bishop d2. Maybe he wants to sacrifice on e7, but it looks a bit suspicious to sacrifice. There is no short castle currently because of queen c5, very unpleasant pin, and of course black is winning, so there is no rook e7. And in case you're not taking on e7, so yeah, time for bishop d2. Yeah, of course, maybe words, definitely there is a huge difference, classic and rapid. A lot of things are different, and one more step, of course, it is the blitz. But still, in case we see the best players of the world, they're usually good in everything, yeah? So still they dominate the rapid, they still dominate the blitz. So yeah, not that many, let's say, drastical changes. Still the game is different, but the best of the world are usually still the best of the world in all different kinds of time controls. Let's go for Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen. So yes, what we have now is that Wesley So is trying to make a draw now with white, so he's suffering for a draw, and this is what I meant. Okay, of course it is still a draw, but Wesley had no reason to play for a win, and it clearly shows now. Black is holding draw so easy. We had this king f8, king g7, and of course bishop d3, d5. When d5 is possible, Magnus is pushing for d5. It is still a draw, yeah. Position is a draw, and of course zero chance of losing for Magnus. No big changes so far. Draw in the in the second game between Wesley So and Magnus. Magnus won the first one. Game number 3 will be very exciting. Magnus, I think, will want to go for the full point just to finish his work for today. For Magnus, I believe it feels a bit strange to play for the third place, but it is a game which is personal because Wesley managed to beat him the last 2 times, and it was in the final, so at least Magnus wants to revenge a little bit in the fight for the third place. Magnus with rook e1, I don't know if this you can call a try to win. I don't think so. Rook f1 still brings an easy draw for Wesley, so no big changes here. Jan Nepomniachtchi with bishop d2. Alright guys, so bishop d2, this is something that we've been anticipating. Bishop to d2 played, and Giri is thinking once again, because this is strange, because when you play h6, and Giri thought, I think almost 5 minutes before playing h6, usually you're thinking that bishop d2, this is something that might have happened. Yeah, I mean bishop d2, you're anticipating bishop d2, and now queen c5 by Anish Giri. Queen c5, of course, to change the queens is a nice idea in the Naiditsch for the black color, but is it the right choice now? Queen to c5, is this sort of endgame better for white? So for example, in case we're taking on c5 and we try something with a move e5, the knight on f6, not that many squares, maybe to g4 with a try to get the pawn on e5, and other some tricks by white, maybe bishop e4 So we have, yeah, still no castle because the bishop is hanging on e7. Maybe black is able to take on e5, but you must be calculating well in this sort of positions. I think white should have some compensation. If white has something more than compensation, of course, not sure. So not 100% sure if white should take on c5. Maybe there is something better than taking on c5. Black still needs to lose a tempo. No short castle. Queen a4 check. I don't believe in queen a4 check. Somehow it feels bad to give a check on a4. There might be just bishop to d7 and then short castle. So queen a4 probably not the best. Let's see what Jan Nepomniachtchi is going to play next. And Wesley So and Magnus still playing. Alright, so they're enjoying the game of chess. And yeah, soon I guess we're going to see a draw. When they had enough, then we are going to see a draw. Because to win this position for white or black seems to be impossible. We have an opposite color bishop, as you can see. Not much is going on. So yeah, it is a draw. Still, I think 99.999 it is a draw. Jan Nepomniachtchi and Anish Giri. So we have to move knight e2. Nice move by Jan Nepomniachtchi. I like it. Very nice move. Knight e2. Anish is taking on d4 anyway. Bishop c8. Also nice to get the short castle done. Rook to b1. Short castle. How can we evaluate such an endgames? I mean, is it better for Nepomniachtchi or is it an equal position? I don't know. Hard to evaluate. Hard to be sure. From the feeling, it should be very close to equal. So I believe it's very close to equal. Yeah, it should be an equal position. Both players with 8 minutes, still over 8 minutes on the clock. So I expect as well this game to end in a draw. At least I don't see trouble for Giri. Giri needs one more move, and this is rook e8. Then bishop f8 to put the pressure on the e4 pawn, and I think then black is doing perfectly fine. In case of knight c6, which might happen in the game, there is still rook e8 to follow. Knight takes e7, rook takes e7. Now the pawn on e4 is hanging once again, and white is not worse. White is obviously not worse, but if white is better, I don't think so. I believe it is just a draw. So we have very high chances of seeing a draw as well in the game of Nepomniachtchi and Giri. Game number 2. In the first game, Anish been very close to win with the white color. Nepomniachtchi fought, very resourceful. He found all the tricks that he had and managed to hold to a draw, a bad position. And now with the white color, Nepomniachtchi surprised, I think, a little bit Anish Giri with a neither of bishop g5, f4, f5, fe, and then Giri countered with his bishop take e6, which obviously surprised Nepomniachtchi because he thought for a while 3 minutes, and 3 minutes time is a lot for Nepomniachtchi, who plays at tempo. Nepomniachtchi is just playing so fast, move. So Nepomniachtchi thinking for 3 minutes, it's a lot for him. So yeah, we have knight d4, queen d4, bishop e7, bishop d3, h6, and now Giri finds a way to get his queens off the board. So bishop c8 and rook to b1, short castle, knight c6, no, knight f5 played in the game, so Nepomniachtchi tries with knight to f5. Let's see what Giri is going to play. I think rook e8 should be still something normal. Maybe to take on f5. Yeah, it's possible to take on f5, get the d5 push as well. Very close to be equal. So, but I like more the move rook e8. This is maybe personally something that I like to do better, but I think rook e8 is just so solid. Nice to get the rook to e8. Rook e8, I believe there's short castle, and maybe the idea is to get after bishop f8. You have this little trick with knight take h6. So the knight on f6, yeah. Let's see. This is better for white, so yeah. I don't know, maybe rook e8, not the best, maybe to take on f5 and d5, so we want to get the bishop on c5. All of that is looking pretty close to be equal. Maybe this is even better, yeah. We have the bishop on c5, knight is getting to e4. Well, yeah. Very, very close. Very, very close. I think, yeah, should end up all in a draw. Wesley and Magnus, yes, they repeated the move, so the game 2 ends in not very spectacular draw, which is normal for these two great players. And just a second, because I think I have some little problem with connection. I'm not sure if actually my connection failed or not. Just a second, I'm uploading a little bit. I'm reloading the websites. Do you still see and hear me? My connection is fine, or I have some trouble with connection actually. Do you see and hear me, guys? Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. Because somehow I had the feeling that I'm hanging a little bit, but if you say it's fine, yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot, guys, for the feedback. Thanks. All right. So, Wesley saw Magnus Carlsen. It's a draw in game number 2. Magnus Carlsen will try to win the third one. I'm sure that he won the first. So perfect situation for Magnus against Wesley. So, and Anish Giri is fighting. Anish Giri is fighting in game number 2. In game number 1, Anish had a better position but did not manage to win the game. Now he is black. So he's fighting for equality, and I believe he reached an equal position. So we have indeed takes f5 and d5. Yes, why not to take on f5 and d5? We've been as well discussing this opportunity of taking on f5 and d5. So now we have it on the board. Bishop e3 played by Jan Nepomniachtchi. He's avoiding the move bishop c5. On the other hand, there's knight g4. Yeah, exactly. Rook e8. Now the white king is in sort of danger. Short castle, and Giri is probably thinking bishop f6 is possible. Yeah, he plays bishop f6, the most normal, yeah. And I think gf is better. Why to take with a knight? I think I would take with a g-pawn. It looked a little strange to take with a g-pawn. He takes with a knight. I think to take with a g-pawn, it looks nice. Why not to take with a g-pawn? Then we're getting the knight to e5. As well, the king on g7 will feel himself extremely comfortable, because king on g7 is sort of protected by these 3 pawns. And knight is getting to e5, so I think it is enough to hold the draw. Little bit surprised that Giri is taking with a knight. I think to take with a g-pawn is very interesting. Now we have this rook b4 move by Nepomniachtchi. He tries to get his rook to a4 to come close to the pawn on a6. a5, rook d4, rook b8. Yeah, it is just a draw. Very nice move by Giri actually. Rook to b8. He's getting his rook very fast into the game. Rook b2 is a threat, or maybe even rook to b4, because in case white is taking on b4, there is a b and rook takes on a2. But now we have a3 played by Nepomniachtchi, of course defending against the move rook to b4. Still, we are objectively speaking, I think the position is very close to be a draw. I think rook b2 is possible. In case of rook e1, rook e7 ideas, there is king f8. So the black king is feeling himself very safe on f8. No entry points for the white rooks. Knight on f6 is a bit passive. On the other hand, it is protecting the pawn on d5. There is rook b8 coming next. There is rook a2. Maybe even change of rooks is possible. In case white is better, white is very little better. I think this all should end in a draw with a high percentage. Let's see. Let's see, of course, how the game develops. You never know in these rapid games. Of course, mistakes might happen any moment. Do you remember from yesterday when the Magnus, when the great world champion Magnus Carlsen lost to Nepomniachtchi and endgame with a clear pawn up and much better position. So yeah, anything is possible, especially in the rapid chess. But objectively speaking, I think we're speaking of a position which is very close to a draw. North is down. No. I didn't ask of that reason, but indeed, you are correct. The chat is still too silent. Too silent, yeah. The chat is too silent. I don't know. Guys, why are you so silent? It would be great to see a bit more action inside the chat. I think it would be more funny. But alright, probably you're too focused on the game. No time to write something down. So yeah, understandable. Okay, let's see. What will happen next in the game? Jan Nepomniachtchi and Anish Giri. So just a second, because somehow I got moved away from the game. Okay, now we have the correct game again, and it seems like the guys are repeating the moves. Yeah, the moves will be now most probably repeated. Rook b1 by Nepomniachtchi. I think Giri just can play rook b8. At least I don't see the big danger in playing rook to b8. He's thinking a little bit if he should go rook b8. Maybe he's considering, should I go with the a rook or with the e rook? With the a rook, alright, I don't see a big difference. So let's see. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Nice to hear that you like the commentaries. Let's see, rook b8. Jan Nepomniachtchi is thinking. I believe he needs to take and to play rook a4. So he puts some pressure on the a file. Rook a8 back, king f2, king e7, king e3, king d6, king d4. Just rook a7. Yeah, still white is super little better. But I believe, yeah, it is still a draw. Rook a4. I think, yeah, we're gonna see rook a4. Maybe king f2 first, but not much is going to change. Yeah, rook a4, rook a8. Now the white king has to go to d4. So it's sort of forced, and the black king goes to d6. All right, yeah. Just a second, I'm reading the comments. So let's see. Okay, so let's see what is playing Jan Nepomniachtchi next. c4. c4. Let's see what is happening after c4. D takes c4 or king to e7. So, no skill, just luck. What you don't like about the stream? The more you allow spaces for viewers to think, plus avoid notorious continuous talking, the better. Yeah, no skill, just luck. I don't agree to you. This sounds very strange to me what you're saying. But okay, maybe you like it that way. Personally, when I'm listening to someone, I like the guy to explain me something. But of course, yeah, different people want different things. c4, king e7, and we have cd. So, how to win this position with white? Some chances, I think very, very small chances. Very, very small chances. Even I think knight take d5 should be enough. So, king to f2. I think it's close to a draw. Close to a draw. Very, very close to a draw. We have king e5 probably. Let's get the king to e5. Yeah, perfect. And now king to f5. Yeah. To win such a position is almost impossible, even if white is doing very, very little better. Better rook on a4 against a passive rook on a8, but I think it is very close to a draw. So, still, Jan Nepomniachtchi maybe is going to try a little bit to continue. Try to win this position, but I think, yeah, objective chances are almost not there. We have king to e5, knight d7, knight is getting to c5. So yeah. I think almost zero chances, almost zero chances. No skill, just luck. I do not say, do not explain, I say do not describe all. Okay, no skill, just luck. You must understand the commentaries are for everyone, not for you particularly. And I think it's nice to describe the things. Chess is very complex game, and even easily looking things are quite complex. Yeah, sometimes you think something is easy, but something is very, very complex. This is what, for example, we are often underestimating in case engine is showing us some way, some move. We're thinking, well, super easy, but in fact it is extremely complex because we are not able to play by ourselves, not able to show this kind of strengths. And yeah, so it depends of course on the person. So we have more exchanges of pawns, and of course, in case you are black, you want to force as many pawns to be changed as possible, yeah, because this is the key. In case you are the side, in case you are the weaker side, in case you are defending, the best way to defend something is to change. So in case Giri is even later on losing the pawn on a5 or losing the pawn on g4, it might be not too bad because still the position will be basically a draw. Giri is defending very well, yeah. He changed a lot of material, now just 2 pawns left in case he's managing to change one of those pawns that left on the board. It is already quite surely a draw. Rook b7 bringing his rook inside the game. We have the check on c5 maybe, but then there is king to d4. Yes, I don't see real chances for Jan Nepomniachtchi to win this position. I think it is the draw. The draw is very close already. Rook to c2, yeah, now we can be sure that it is a draw. The white rook is quite passively already on the second line roll, and yeah, king f4 by Giri, provoking the move g3, and then he wants, of course, just to go back the king to e5. Very nice defense by Anish Giri. He's holding this slightly worse position in a very easy way. I mean, without having any trouble. 3 minutes 30 still on the clock. And 4 minutes 50 for Jan Nepomniachtchi, but for Jan Nepomniachtchi it is normal to have much more time. He's playing by his intuition. Very intuitive player. Jan Nepomniachtchi, of course, he calculates also extremely well. Yeah, this is what supports his intuition, his great calculation. Nepomniachtchi is like a calculator, very fast, very sharp-minded. Knight e4, g3 pawn is falling. Of course, still a draw. The guys are enjoying the game of chess. And yeah. Let's see what happens next. Rook c4, yeah. Nepomniachtchi is forcing a draw. Giri will take on g3, and Nepomniachtchi is getting the g4 pawn. So yeah, draw will be agreed in a couple of moves. Few more moves and we are going to see a draw on the board. So 1 against 1, 1 versus 1 in the match of Jan Nepomniachtchi and Anish Giri. So king c3, rook c7. Funny. Let's see how far they will go with playing such a position. I believe king d3 and draw agreed. Or yeah, Nepomniachtchi is still thinking. Very funny. What is he thinking about? Because rook c4. Jan Nepomniachtchi is playing for a win. 1 pawn versus 1 pawn. What a decision by the Russian player. I have no idea why he's trying to win this position, because obviously it is, yeah, you have 0 chances of winning such a position against Anish Giri. So yeah, basically waste of time. You can't win this with white. The game is going to end in a draw. And maybe Magnus has started his game number 3 already. Let us... Yes, Magnus is playing. Magnus is playing the game number 3 and he's going straight for a draw. Why Magnus Carlsen is forcing a draw with the white pieces? Something so strange. Why is it happening? I've been so sure that he's going to play for a win. And Magnus a4 in game number 1, and now he continues by playing h3. Oh, yeah, what to say about something like that? And of course, we just have a draw already on move 9, because usually white is playing this kind of opening to force a draw by queen to e2 or queen to e3, usually queen e2 being played, and after queen e2 it's just a draw. Of course, the queens are getting changed. You have very similar material left on the board. So game 3 is going to end, in my opinion, in a very fast draw now, which is strange. We rarely see Magnus Carlsen for king d1. Unbelievable. What is this? Magnus Carlsen with king d1. Is it his preparation? It's amazing. What is king d1? Just short castle, and Magnus probably wants to get his rook to e1, but this looks so bad for white. Short castle, rook to e1. How can this be something nice for Magnus Carlsen? It's unbelievable. It looks just bad. Let's see if... yes, it is a draw between Nepomniachtchi and Giri as expected. Yeah, zero chance to win. Yeah, no joke. Thanks for the reminder. Okay, let's switch to my channel. So guys, stay here, stay with us in case you like my comments. Now we're just switching from Lich's channel to my Twitch channel. So the next 2 games I will be commenting on my channel. In case you are not following already, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed my commentaries, and maybe till tomorrow. So tomorrow's the final day of the Magnus Carlsen event, including the world champion himself. No joke, comments, nobody leaves. All right. So, no joke is making now the raid, and we continue on my Twitch channel. So basically the last 2 games we're watching on my Twitch channel. The commentator is the same one. Thank you very much for the raid, no joke. So I think we're almost done with the raid. Yeah, the raid did